my name's Artemis, and am I the only one who's getting really absolutely goddamn motherfucking tired of all of the political distractions we're being focused on, and that every time something bad happens from a political standpoint, they have to reshift the focus onto people hating someone else? I'm fairly certain I'm not alone on that because, you know, as somebody as part of the LGBT community and is also a furry, I am pretty much in the demographic of people that they would quite happily shift the focus onto and say, well, they're trying to attack your kids. And it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger, and it's kind of pissing me off that nobody's seeing it anymore, and I want to talk about it, so we're going to. So obviously there are a lot of very big issues in the world at the moment when it comes to political discourse, like the cost of living crisis, the war in Ukraine and the sort of proxy war that it's getting, the rise of the far right wing in all areas of the world and what that entails, and the rampant fucking greed of corporations that do not give two shits about humanity in general and will do anything to consistently raise prices for their shareholders and themselves. But none of this is what people are being focused on. None of this is what people are actually getting angry about. All of the rage is being turned into a weapon and used against each other, because divide and conquer has always worked in war, so why wouldn't it work in political discourse as well? And that's why we have these massive fucking campaigns of hatred against transgender people, drag queens, immigrants, refugees, anything that is not straight white normal, essentially. Because it's an easy distraction, it's an easy way to stoke the fires of hatred, and that's what the politicians absolutely love, because if you're focused on this stupid little thing that they are just inventing, this little issue that isn't actually an issue, one that they can just make up, then you're not focusing on what they're doing behind your back. Now, I live in the little town of Weymouth, which I'm sure some of you will know. It's not a town that many people are going to know, but here's a brief history of it. It's a shithole, has always been a shithole, and is getting worse. It is famous for being the town that introduced the Black Death, the fucking bubonic plague, to the UK. It's that town. It's a seaside town with a seaside economy, which means that only 4 months out of the year is it economically viable, and generally it has seen a decline throughout my entire life into antisocial behaviour, organised crime, drug use, and a complete apathy from the powers that be to keep the town alive. Our high street has got more empty shops than full ones, it seems, these days, and more businesses are leaving the town because it is falling apart, crumbling, rotting, and dying. Now, we have recently hit the news because we have this barge turning up, the Bibi Stockholm, which is actually here now, which has been designed to house refugees who are coming across the channel. This is a big problem, apparently, where people are fleeing persecution in their home countries and, of course, the wars going across the continent to try and find a better life elsewhere, which is kind of funny because the UK likes to big up that it is this amazing shining beacon of civilization that everybody should want to be a part of, and then we turn around and go, well, how dare you want to be a part of us? So they come across on these boats, which apparently is a huge problem, and then obviously xenophobic racism takes over because anybody who is not British apparently is something to be feared these days and are being housed in hotels and such. The government wants to obviously shift the blame from that sort of shit and draw the attention to it by sticking them all in this barge, which is now located on Portland Port, just past my little town of Weymouth. So what this means is that this town is about to see roughly 250 refugee immigrants arrive to live in a little barge. And ever since the news of this happening, I have heard people all around my town saying, we need to watch out for the gangs that are going to come and be, you know, predating on people and women and children, all the organised crime we're going to see, and you need to be careful because they'll come over and steal, they'll assault you, they'll knife you. And I'm sat here kind of oblivious, like, that's already happening. We already have rampant shoplifting and theft in the town. That's all British people doing that. That's people who've lived there their whole lives. That's not new. This is already happening. You're talking about the gangs of people with knives that are attacking people. That's been happening for years. There are streets you don't walk down because that's where it happens. This is not, like, the key problem here seems to be we have a police force that does square root of fuck all unless you're parking in the wrong spot or going 5 miles over the fucking limit. So, are we not focusing on the wrong thing? These people are coming here just to live their fucking life and trying to escape the nightmare that they have fled from. Like, is that really something to be demonized? Like, why are you attaching the crimes of all of the locals to people you've never met and aren't even here yet? But it's a perfect sidestep scapegoat weapon because that's what people are focusing on. They're not focusing on the issues of the town. They're not focused on the powers that be. All they know is that the big scary demons are about to enter the town and everything's going to get a lot worse. And it doesn't matter what happens or who does what now. It would always be attached to that. And that's the purpose. Our government is absolutely atrocious. It is doing nothing but stuffing its own pockets, telling you that we can't afford to lower prices, we can't afford to lower rents or mortgage rates or anything. You have to sit and suffer because the economy is fucked. But we will still pay each other huge salaries. We will still put all of our heating and bills and everything that you can't afford on our governmental expenses. And also, we're going to get rid of inheritance tax because we don't need the £7 billion a year in tax revenue it raises. No, we can shake our magic money tree and fund that nice and easy because it benefits us, the rich fuckers. We have a government that is purely involved in self-interest because they know they're not getting in at the next election. So it's all about what can they get done and how much money can they make before they are fucked off into oblivion for the rest of their political careers. And all they really care about is making that money and making sure that you're focused on the shit that doesn't matter. It's not just refugees and immigrants. This is exactly the same tactic that has been used around the drag and trans crises that we see across the fucking world. Because people are daring to live their life doing things that have been happening all throughout history, but now apparently it's a threat to children, despite the fact that honestly, none of us give a fuck about your kids. We are ambivalent at best. We are here to live our lives, perform our art for ourselves. We ain't looking to indoctrinate nobody. We ain't looking to include nobody in it. Like, have you been to a drag show? Because that shit happens late at fucking night. If a 5-year-old can see that, that's a failure of parenting more than it's a failure of the fucking drag ads. Once again, it's just a distraction. If you're pissed off at that, you're not pissed off at the other thing. And this is why the world is getting so shit. This is why nothing seems to be improving, because the powers that are doing this are just getting better and better at shifting the focus and shifting the blame off onto something else. And until people stop taking the fucking bait, until they stop looking at this and getting all pissed off with the Daily Mail, the Sun, and on Twitter and Threads or whatever the fuck they're using these days, until they realise exactly what's going on, it's just going to spin. It's just going to keep going. The only thing that will change will be the target. People are starting to calm down about drag queens now because all of those laws got shot down. They will find a new target. They will find something else and they'll attack that. That'll be the new flavour of the month, the new scapegoat. And they will keep this cycle going until they're either out of power or they just don't need to anymore because they've made enough money that they own you. This is something that I have seen every fucking day for like a decade now. Funnily enough, the same amount of time that the Tories have been in power in my fucking country. And it pisses me off because I deal with these conversations all the fucking time. People saying like, yeah, well, it's going to get worse and all the immigrants are here. How could it be worse? How could it be any worse? What do you think they're going to do? They're not the ones raising rents. They're not the ones raising food prices and keeping them high. They're not the ones raising taxes and mortgage rates. They are not the ones who have any power. They are fucking pawns who are being used in a shitty game of chess. They're struggling just as much as anyone else in this shithole. And yet people won't see it. And somehow people will still vote Tory at the next fucking election, and that blows my mind, but there we go. Ran over, I guess, because fuck this world. This is the sort of shit I can't look at anymore because it just makes me angry. Hopefully you enjoyed this little rant. What do you think about all this? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Are the immigrants really the problem? Spoiler alert, no, they're not. Thank you for watching, I guess. And I will see you all next week. Bye!